What Adar Poonawalla has done by investing in Dharma, he's given him capital on a plate which is non-strategic, non-questioning. I would like to think that prices are variable, they can play with a little more and they choose not to play with it because occupancy is so low. All comes back to screens. Most screens, you look, these same guys will reduce their prices to 100. So my point is, the more screens you build, the more subscribers you get.
Yes.
The more people you get to pay, the more money that comes back into the system. So ये आपको patronage investment भी after some point, if you generate enough cash, it will become very self-sustained. It has become so specific marketing, so specific and so digital that it has lost all soul, all sense of awareness. I think film marketing is the most weakest link in the chain right now. I'm so sick of hearing about this entourage, cost, screens nahi hai, capital. So get up and do something.
Hi Vanita, welcome to the Quint.
Thank you so much.
You've of course tracked the entertainment industry for over 2 decades now, right? When you look at the industry today, where do you think we are? Like, what phase are we in?
Oh God.
Weighted question right from the beginning.
When I started covering media, we were still, must be 2000, 2001,
right.
A little after that, when I started doing it full time. We were still, we were like about 100 channels and, multiplexes were just starting. So when I see it now, it is like a land of plenty. It is like heaven for a consumer.
Yes.
Okay. As a media consumer, I am in heaven.
Yeah.
As an analyst, I have some reservations about many things. But I think there hasn't been a better time to be a media consumer. Whether there has been a better time to be in the media business is a question. When I said 100 channels, we are talking about something like 8,000-9,000 screens, out of which roughly half are multiplex screens. We are talking about 900 TV channels. We are talking about dozens of streaming apps, of which let's say 10 are major streaming apps.
Yes.
We're talking about 900 million TV viewers in this country, 700 million smartphone users, 450 million of them are on the phone all the time, looking at YouTube, looking at Insta, looking at WhatsApp, whatever. The stark contrast between say 2000, 2001 and now is not just the numbers. Now our lives are socializing also digital.
Yeah.
So it's a surround sound kind of thing. So from that perspective, it's a completely different world.
I remember when we spoke last, you had told me the exact same number. You said as an industry, our revenue is just
20,000
crore, right? Only 11% of the population is actually going to the theaters. Am I right?
122 million people. So it's 11% of the Indian population.
That's going
in
to
Europe, it's 50% or 60%. The US, or whatever. Europe, US, don't hold me to this. Europe, US, anywhere between 50 to 80%. So to correct that for a minute, 1/4 of everything, all Indian 900 million Indians watch TV. 1/4 of what they watch, not 1/4 of the people, is films.
It's films.
Almost 30 to 40% of OTT viewing is films.
Yeah.
70% of film music sold is film.
Yeah.
The film consumption is high, but that does not reflect in the size.
But what do you think is going wrong then? We say we love the cinema, we're a nation that loves the cinema, but it doesn't reflect. What do you think is going on there?
So I just did a huge piece of work on this.
Yeah.
I spent a fair bit of time talking to a lot of people, including Jyoti Deshpande of Geo Studios. I spoke to the Miraj guys, Harman, a whole lot of guys. See, these are things one has known for 20 years. Screens come here, screens. But every time you ask a PVR, Ajay always says, Vanita, occupancy to hoti nahi hai screens. Which is, he's absolutely right. You look at PVR Inox's occupancy, 25% seat, 35% for very good
films.
Okay? They make their butter and their jam from popcorn and coke and advertising. There is no need for multiplexes. There is only need for screens. The ticket prices are lower. Not enough screens are because it's not worth a PVR's while to do it. PVR is not into the masking.
Sure.
Let's agree. But there are a lot of chains which are into the masking. Why is nobody investing? As luck would have it, I was speaking to the guys who own Hoi Choi, which is SVF Entertainment. It's a Kolkata-based company. They've been around for 30 years. And I discovered totally by chance, 2015 they said, screens in West Bengal are falling. So their collections were falling.
Yeah.
This is a studio, mind you, they've done tens of thousands of hours of TV content. They have a streaming app. And they've distributed something like 1,500 films, 250 of their own films.
Yeah.
These guys tell me, but we started building theatres because our collections were dipping. Now, this is so logical. What stops other theatre chains from saying, let me do 120 rupee model, pared down, don't give me the frills and whistles. And it doesn't have to be in the cities.
And let's just do single
Please,
screens.
don't do it in the cities. We are the most, you and I are among the most pampered media consumers in this country.
Yeah.
They actually started getting revenues from towns which had stopped going to the cinema.
What towns would these be, would you know?
Jalpaiguri, Chinsura. Mahendra Soni told me that Chinsura, from zero for one particular film, revenues went to 15 lakh. See, but this is one film.
But
now
it's
you
great,
multiply
right?
it across
Yeah.
100, 300, 200 films. Suddenly that town has come back to life.
Yeah.
So don't tell me people are not going to the theatre. If you can point to a Pushpa 2 or a Pathan, if people are going back to the theatre in the cities, why won't they go back in the smaller towns or the villages? Cinema has been one of the biggest outing for Indians every decade, I think. SVF, for instance, I mean, I can't get over what they have done. They have seen their collections double.
That's amazing.
They went from 0 theatres to 53. They manage, lease, own, whatever. They've taken.
But they've done it.
It is their problem.
Yeah.
They'll go to 75 and they'll keep raising it. So I asked him, can this be replicated?
Yeah.
He says, Hindi mein, it's a lot of states. So, somebody has to.
It's not very centered,
so
no.
One theatre chain has to say, okay, I will do Bihar this year. I'll do UP next year. I will do Rajasthan.
And open like single screens.
Exactly. Open, manage, lease. There must be defunct screens lying there.
Yeah,
just pick them up.
100% there will
25
be.
screens reopened when Pathan came out.
Yeah.
Single screens.
Yeah.
So
And earlier, I think we used to have much more screens, right?
we
It's
had
dropped
12,000.
recently.
We had 12,000 till the late 90s.
Till the late 90s.
And now it's 8,700 something. Out of which 3.5 is multiplex. Mota.
Mota.
Don't hold me to
Of
it.
course, of course.
And the other thing, I just wish this industry had more unity. More ability to speak in one voice, whether it is newspapers. I'm just coming from a newspaper conference.
Yeah.
They cannot agree on metrics. For 5 years, there have been no metrics in the newspaper business. Television, there's always a fight between
But it is
non-Hindi,
what it is.
non-national chains versus the national chains, versus distributors, versus broadcasters. In films, oh God, in films, it is terrible.
Yeah.
So the South Indian producers will not talk to the North Indian producers. The North Indian producers have a fight with the multiplex owners. There is no single voice which speaks for even one segment of forget the whole industry.
Yeah.
So I wish there was a NASCOM for this industry.
Yeah.
Really. These are some of the things which I would love to see happening in my lifetime.
You're actually echoing a lot of actors' voice as well. I think recently when I spoke with Abhishek Bachchan, he said the same thing. He said, I wish we had unity.
Make it a 2 billion, 3 billion ticket business. Tab jaake you can say that, when you're a 10, 15, 20 billion dollar business, then, if you have little fights over territories, I can understand. अब तो पाई grow नहीं किया है.
In a previous conversation, you had said that in India, we have six screens for every million of the population that goes to the theatre, as opposed to 125 in the US and 30 in China.
120 in the US, I think. And
Okay.
30,
and 30 in China,
China,
right? So the solution to this is opening single screens, like you just mentioned in your previous
Opening
answer.
more screens. They can
Single or
be
multiplex.
pared down multiplex screens. See, we think of multiplex as an aircon, wo. Maybe you don't need to have aircon. See, the cost of the screen, whether you put it in a multiplex or unless you're doing a Dolby screen or IMAX screen, cost of the screen is roughly the same. I think the difficult part is the land and the building construction cost, the rentals, the permissions. Some of the biggest guys have had heart attacks over permissions. So, it's very bad from that perspective. I think most screens in the right areas. Screen density is bad in the wrong areas. I am now completely dismissive about occupancy. तो occupancy आपके शहर में नहीं है. जहाँ नहीं है वहाँ आप 2 screen भी लगा के देखिए कितनी occupancy हो जाएगी. There are so many variables to play with, Swati. आप सोचो pricing.
Pricing is a big point.
Place.
Yeah.
The actual films that you're showing. I want to watch a Marathi film in Delhi. I didn't have that option easily. Now I watched a Bengali film in Pune. So now that option is open. Na?
Another interview that I'd done, I think it was with Nawazuddin.
Fantastic guy.
Yeah, man, amazing. So in that interview, I remember him saying that, जो हमारी फिल्म्स होती है, चलो लोगों को हमारी फिल्म अच्छी लगती है, इरफान खान की फिल्म अच्छी लगती थी, पर हम लोग को वैसी स्क्रीन्स मिलते नहीं थे, right? People love us as actors, but when it's a star, they get more screens, they get more visibility, right? You see, even I, for one, will not go and watch my film if it's 1 hour away from me. So another thing is where it's coming out. It's
Within
not
5
just the
kilometers.
screens.
The usual logic is within 5
5
kilometers.
kilometers.
Radius of 5 kilometers. नहीं है वो.
है ही नहीं,
Get
screens
out
ही
of
नहीं है.
Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, Chennai, Hyderabad से निकलो, पूना से भी निकलो. Get out of the second rung towns also. And go. है ही नहीं.
Why?
You see the list of towns where SVF has opened. मैं तो नाम ही नहीं सुने थे कभी. I am like, why are more studios not doing it? Why are more exhibitors not doing it? Find a way out. So one is screen, second is capital नहीं है यार.
मैं वही बोलने वाली थी, पैसे की बात होगी ना ये तो.
And everybody talks about cost. यार, you will discuss costs in north versus south and because market नहीं बढ़ रहा है. ये सब argument ना सिकड़े हुए market के arguments हैं. आप मार्केट बढ़ाओ, सबके लिए पैसा होगा, सबके लिए धंधा होगा. Somebody has to have the courage to say, boss, इधर. It's, Siddharth Jain, another guy.
Yes.
I just interviewed him. So you and I do the same job, roughly. But he said, earlier it was a lot of filmmaking was instinct and somehow now it's all Excel sheet.
Yeah.
थोड़ा सा Excel sheet को कम करो, थोड़ा instinct को बढ़ाओ. What Adar Poonawalla has done by investing in Dharma, he's given him capital on a plate which is non-strategic, non-questioning. It's very difficult to get that kind of capital. I agree.
Everyone can't get it.
So a Roy Kapoor film or whoever, a lot of people are looking for capital. But it always comes with strings attached. In this case, Bhavija was another who went and raised money. Who said, मेरे को private equity से नहीं deal करना है. It is, it comes with a lot of strictures.
Yeah.
And private equity को जल्दी exit चाहिए होता है. They have an exit window of 5 to 7 years.
Invest किया तो exit plan भी साथ ही आता है.
So that doesn't work for the film business. Now it's impossible to do it for individual films. You need a portfolio. In portfolio भी, you need someone with a long-term perspective and somebody who lets the creator be.
वही बोलते ना, पहले होता था passion for cinema. Now it's just business of cinema. A lot of directors like who I speak with, they keep saying that I wish the producers had that passion. It's not like कि चलो मैंने suppose 100 रुपया डाला, मेरा return क्या है, OTT deal करो, ये हो गया, चलो film तो return आ गया, पैसे वापस, अब बनाओ film. So producers have become very tight about the leeway that they give the directors. So it's like.
And I see this in news journalism also, by the way. That capital is very tight.
Yeah.
You need patronage capital, as I call it. I don't know if you know, it's before your time. Manmohan Shetty financed a lot of.
Yes,
he financed the entire parallel cinema movement in the 80s.
Yeah.
Ad Satya, a lovely film called Hip Hip Hooray, which sank without a trace, I think. He did it simply because he was running ad labs, so he had the money. And he believed in these guys. He liked Govind Nilani's work. So he said, okay, fine, you do. NFDC did it. But NFDC went totally the other way. It would only finance other kind of films. Not mainstream.
Yeah.
But my point is, you need patronage investment which is not looking at returns. Only then can you. And remember, India is one of the few markets there is no state subsidy, nothing for film. Some states will give you some tax breaks or something, but there is no. Indian cinema stands on its own feet in this market. We have no quota, no licenses. China में 34 फिल्म से ज़्यादा आप import नहीं कर सकते. इंडिया में आप जो कुछ हॉलीवुड लाना है, कोरियन लाना है, स्पेनिश लाना है, लाओ. बट बिकेगी हिंदुस्तानी पिक्चर ही. That's the beauty of Indian cinema.
Every time I've met a director or an actor and they said this, and I'm just thinking you're absolutely right. That investment needs to come without थोड़ा सा passion के साथ भी.
Patronage investment.
Yeah.
See, that patronage investment happened in the 80s, but from bad money, dodgy money. Okay? Because there were no sources, so we took it.
Yeah.
But now it doesn't need to happen from that. There are enough HNIs, enough companies in the entertainment business, whether it's a JioStar, whether it's a, my God, now entertainment companies भी कम होती जा रही है. Zee. इतना consolidation हो गया है. Maybe Google will start finance. See, Apple is financing.
Yes.
But the thing you should remember is that the film business, unlike TV or newspaper, films is a pay business.
Yes.
Okay? 80% of the money, 60-70%, that is the box office.
Yes.
Is 60-70% is the box office revenue, comes from people paying for tickets.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's a very robust business. People are trying to build subscription businesses in other media. Film has built it for 109 years.
Yeah.
So my point is, the more screens you build, the more subscribers you get.
Yes.
The more people you get to pay, the more money that comes back into the system. So ये आपको patronage investment भी after some point, if you generate enough cash, it will become very self-sustaining.
That's true.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Post-pandemic, we've seen the audience return to the screens, right? But I personally feel it's still a very cautious return. The footfalls are so like erratic. What do you think the reason is?
We're talking sub-billion tickets, 940 odd million sold in 23.
Is it close to pre-pandemic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pre-pandemic was 980 कुछ होगा, 943 किया हमने 23 में, and 24 we fell. I think 880 कुछ था million.
And I think theatrical footfalls also fell in 2024.
Yeah, so footfalls fell.
4% something.
But Hindi, if you look at the frequency of the movie-going habit, it is crazy. In Tamil Nadu and Kerala especially, it is 6 to 10 times a year.
Wow.
In Hindi, it has fallen from 6 to 3.
What do you think is going on there?
So, supply नहीं है यार. There are no films coming out.
तो जो आ रही है films, वो भी लोग देखने नहीं जा रहे.
नहीं
अभी इतनी मतलब कि जैसे yours and my favorite film, I think this is one of the films that's been is Lapata Ladies. ठीक है? People didn't even know it released. Now a film like this, which is loved, the story is brilliant, but people aren't going to the theaters to watch it.
And then tons of people watched it on Netflix.
That's what.
Lapata Ladies is a typical. It is our gaze on the village life. Okay, it's a lovely film. The village guy doesn't want to see his own life. So you're not going to get a mass thing for that film.
Yeah.
It was not a mass film, let's say.
Sure.
And people are stepping out for theatres become about larger than life entertainment.
Yeah.
Events and concerts are going through the roof.
Yes.
So people are stepping out. Now people are not stepping out for your film. Because you have not kept the theatres lubricated enough. 3 महीने कोई रिलीज नहीं होती ढंग की. And when I say release नहीं होती, we release 1800 to 2000 films a year. But in Hindi, that release cycle has reduced madly. And B, when we talk about release cycle, Shailesh Kapoor of Ormax, he qualifies it. He says it should be at least 1,000 screens. A film which releases in 1,000 screens is considered a major release.
Yeah.
So no major release has happened for 8 and 10 weeks. You can't do that.
Well, the other thing I want to talk about, which I wanted to talk about earlier, then बातों में मेरे से miss हो गया वो point, is the price point of tickets. You know, today our average Indian household really cannot afford to pay that kind of money because, like we've discussed, popcorn is the biggest thing. Ticket prices, अगर 4% या 5% भी बढ़ा है as opposed to the previous years, popcorn is still expensive. Today, if I have to go with my son, I have to think of, अच्छा 2,000 तो गया. I maybe cannot afford to do that every weekend. So why do you think that even theatres are not correcting that price?
Many of them are listed. PVR is a listed company, so it has to show profits and returns to its shareholders.
Yeah.
You know, तो वो एक pressure है. I think the markets they serve, they assume that, you know, especially the insignia kind of market or the
they can afford it.
The cost of running a fully air-conned, clean theatre with the kind of service. So, you know, Ajay always tells me this. See, I am not running a single screen. I'm giving you a certain ambience for that money because I've always had. But having said that, I agree. But I think we need a separate kind of theatre for that. That theatre has not happened.
So you're saying it depends upon who can afford what.
Also,
तुम्हारे लिए भी है, इनके लिए भी है.
नहीं, and also multiplexes also reduce prices. You know, सुबह की prices कम होती हैं.
Weekdays में भी कम है.
बहुत कम होती हैं. But हम लोग जा नहीं सकते.
वही तो
You and I are working. We can't. So I think I would like to think that prices are variable. They can play with a little more, and they choose not to play with it because occupancy is so low. If occupancy is increased, then prices are variable. You can play with happily. I think it's that balance which they can't seem to get right. It all comes back to screens. Most screens, these same guys will reduce their prices to 100 rupees. If we were at 15, 20, 30,000 screens today, a PVR would be less expensive.
That is true.
Because he would have more traffic.
And more money would be coming in. So they can, of course, balance it out.
When they reduce
prices
करके National Cinema Day पे footfalls increase ना होता है.
और अभी तो वो re-release of films भी हो रहे हैं, वो prices भी कम ही है.
That is happening because वो theatre चलाना इतना महंगा है that वो बिजली पानी जो मेरा fixed cost है वो cover करने के लिए मैं पुरानी picture release करता हूँ. That's why इतना supply नहीं है तभी तो re-release हो रहा है. Because when I come in to watch सितारे ज़मीं पर, which is the last Hindi film I watched, अगली picture के poster नहीं दिख रहे हैं. And I'm an aware audience. You and I cover this sector, so we know what's in the pipeline of every studio. Yeah. There were no posters in Mission Impossible. I wanted to take a selfie with Tom Cruise's poster. Yeah. No poster. It has become so specific marketing, so specific and so digital that it has lost all soul, all sense of awareness. I mean, people and educated people who read or people, they don't know which films are releasing. So I think film marketing is the most weakest link in the chain right now. Capital, screens, film. If I had to put down three things, the olden days to tell the army guys, don't shoot till you see the whites of their eyes, because you should not waste your ammo. So if I say we have to use up our ammo, use it for these three things. And marketing is literally the easiest thing to do. You know that you have so much competition. This is not something that's true for Indian cinema, by the way. This is happening globally. I spoke to David Hancock, this guy from Omdia. He's an analyst. He said Mission Impossible. If you want to market it only to the people who are familiar with the franchise, what happens?
You're not getting new people to a new audience.
There's a 20, 30, 40% spillover ho sakta hai. I'm sorry, digital trailers online mean nothing. You know, this guy, Miraj guy, he told me, ऑनलाइन ट्रेलर्स को 200 मिलियन किसने देखा? यूक्रेन में देखा, रशिया में देखा, किधर देखा?
इंडिया में देखा क्या?
इंडिया में, और किसने देखा इंडिया में? आई मीन, आई डोंट नो, थिंक आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स. आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स ऑन स्क्रीन्स, out of the box on capital, and out of the box on marketing.
So you're saying the marketing is really the weakest link right now?
It is very weak. I mean, अच्छी फिल्मों को आप नहीं, you're not this thing. सितारे ज़मीं पे, I can see that Amir has done, he's gone to all the right places, and so somebody's thought through. There's a lot of on the ground work. It is getting the right kind of traction. But even then, I don't think it has been marketed.
I feel nowadays even the promotional activities with journalists, it's the same thing, right? We go, 50 journalists are doing that same interview, the same background. We are 10 minutes in, paste, copy, paste.
You know, Jyoti said this to me when I interviewed her for this. She says it's become totally formulaic and mechanical, the whole marketing thing. YouTube views kharido, ye karo, wo karo. But it's not converting into what she calls bums on seats.
Absolutely.
It has to convert into tickets. Ultimately, digital का एक सीलिंग होगा ना, उसके बाद आपको जाके लोगों से मिलना पड़ेगा. फिल्म नहीं बिकेगी ऐसे. एंड फिल्म बेचने के लिए भी नहीं. आई थिंक वी डोंट क्रिएट अवेयरनेस.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking of F1. The only reason I know F1 is because I am an Apple TV watcher. Otherwise, would you have known of F1?
I knew of it because I love F1. People who love F1, they knew of it, but no one else knew. And it's a Brad Pitt film.
So it's a global problem. And of course, Windows. When I say screens, I use Windows also. So you know what Amir Khan Productions has done. That is out of the box. That is showing spine, and that is putting your money where your mouth is. You're saying this window is too short. I want my film to do well theatrically because that's my main revenue source. And even if that's not my main revenue source, even if the film fails, I first want to give theatres the first chance. And theatres also, I have to stand by the studios. Because they also pull the plug too soon, I think, sometimes. But anyway.
But also contributing to this whole financial thing, the conversation, which is now slightly stale, but still prevalent, is the entourage cost, the travel cost. That's where the marketing, I feel like earlier, I think 10 years ago, we used to see these actors travel to 2-tier cities, 3-tier cities, promote the life out of the film, you know. Means har kone mein malum tha ye film aa rahi hai. And earlier we touched upon the marketing of the film being very weak today, right? Do you think like it's imperative that people, producers, actors, cut these costs down and put it in the right place to kind of first awareness?
No, I agree. I think first of all, they need to think how they want to market. In fact, Jyoti said this. She says, earlier many of these things were built into the contract. Now it's become a separate cost. And she says it gets very...
The separate cost is
for marketing. If I have to travel to Vadodara or Ahmedabad, then it becomes a separate cost.
So you're trying to say if an actor signs a contract for a film...
I don't know if this is true for all films.
It's not generalized.
Let's not generalize it. But the point is, the costs have gone up. आप कुछ नहीं लो 10% इन्फ्लेशन लो तो कॉस्ट ऊपर जाएंगे.
बिल्कुल.
ईयर ऑन ईयर 7 से 8% आपका इन्फ्लेशन है. So costs have gone up. So marketing costs have also gone. So therefore you need to think smart about marketing. I see even you say talent costs, you're talking about 10 or 20 people. Talent costs in the middle or the lower levels haven't risen phenomenally. I remember Anurag Kashyap saying that the makeup artist for a star gets more than the writer was getting.
He did. You're right.
So my point is that equitability will not happen in price because talent is not equitable. It's like saying all singers should get the same money from Spotify.
That's not possible.
It will not happen. Like, there has to be some reality there. And nobody's put a gun to a studio's head and said, you use this star with this entourage. So when they complain about it, I feel like saying, aap kyun use karte ho? Use somebody else, market the film better. This is where your courage and your spine comes. You want to whine and whine and whine. I'm so sick of hearing about this entourage cost,
Yeah.
screens nahi hai, capital. So get up and do
So
something.
do
more.
something. हाँ बिल्कुल.
What stops you? This is a private business. And if the cost is too high, don't hire. No.
Yeah.
Who's telling you don't hire a low? इतना टैलेंट भरा है इंडिया में यार. लोग रोते हैं कि रोल नहीं मिलता है, रोल नहीं मिलता है.
और अच्छे एक्टर्स हैं, ऐसे नहीं है कि अच्छे एक्टर्स नहीं है.
Nawaz struggled for 10 years. Nobody
Yeah.
noticed. Suddenly Nawaz became hot.
Yeah.
But he was hot 10 years back also.
Yeah.
You chose not to notice him till Sujoy or somebody cast him or
yeah.
Anurag cast him.
Yeah, and made him Nawaz.
Exactly.
It's not a very recent thing, I know that, because I think it's come into light very recently for people who are not from the industry, right? Actors and directors, this trend of them taking like a revenue as opposed to taking a fee. How does this sort of impact how films are financed today?
Tom Cruise will always produce his own films.
Yeah.
Shah Rukh will always produce. Because if he works for a studio, वो पिक्चर बनने से पहले ही डूब जाएगी. क्योंकि he is the highest cost.
Yeah.
Shah Rukh always says, "Now I make my money from my ad films."
Yeah.
So he's the biggest. So he puts his skin in the game. If the film works, he gets money. If it doesn't work, he doesn't get. When they take, the equity guys should be happy. The people investing money should be happy that the actor is willing to, because that means lesser fees or no fee.
No fee. Yeah, yeah.
In this case, Red Chillies, or in his Tom Cruise's case, he's the producer.
Yeah.
His name comes in the credits. Amir. I don't think he'll be paid for Sitare Zameen Par. He gets as a owner of AKPN, he gets the profits, and maybe as an actor, I don't know what the built-in agreements are. I think one thing which I don't see happening enough is a return to the 40s. In 40s, late 40s, the studio system broke up. तब तक क्या होता था? आपके 8-10 राइटर्स होते थे, 2-4 को कैमरामैन, एक्टर्स. दिलीप कुमार used to have a job. उसको मंथली सैलरी मिलती थी. अशोक कुमार had a job. उसको मंथली सैलरी मिलती थी. अब वो सैलरी में वो 1 महीने में 2 पिक्चरें करेगा, 1 पिक्चर करेगा, आधी पिक्चर करेगा. That is the studio's problem.
पर पैसा उतना मिलेगा.
So my point is, we need some sort of balance between these two. That I don't see that happening.
So do you think a minimum of say 6 months from theater to OTT, do you think that's a fair window?
6 months is fair. Because globally also there's no agreed metric by
Yeah, yeah.
I think if it is agreed as a rule, like
The industry has to come
international rule.
Like we were saying, we need unity.
Interpol का rule.
We need that unity.
So then the
everybody,
audience को मालूम है 6 महीने तक कहीं आएगी यार ये पिक्चर जाके देखते
और अगर बहुत अच्छी फिल्म है तो लोग तो जाएंगे ही जाएंगे. And the film is doing well. It's giving.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it is a good film. So of course, even because of that, people are going. But I think what he's done is so courageous. I don't know if anybody else could have
the
done
film
this.
is not doing well because he did not release it.
Film is doing
It's
well
doing well
good.
because it's doing well.
Yeah. But do you think this is something like the smaller filmmakers and producers can take a chance with? Because they kind of need their return on investment. They need those OTT deals. They need to know, okay, hum 8 हफ्ते में आ जाएंगे. So they know their, sorry, the money is recovered. Do you think the smaller producers, filmmakers can take this chance?
Yeah, if the smaller film is part of a larger studio, okay, if it's a part, let's say, of a Geo Studios or a, Viacom 18, which is part of Geo Star, then the theatrical release and everything, then it's fine. Then it's protected. Then they will get. But I think you have to ask yourself if every film needs a theatrical release. Okay, because very often a film may not deserve a theatrical release. It will do very well on Mrs. For example. I loved the film.
Me too.
But I think it was perfect on Z because the audience fit with
the concept
Z5's
of the film,
audience and Mrs. idea, and that's where marketing comes in. और आपको release भी करना है तो आपको suppose for Bengali films, for example, it's clear, or for Tamil films, it's clear. But very often there are films which have crossover potential. Adrishyam, for example, or Manjumal Boys. I was part of some roundtable on indie films at Mahni some years back, and one of the things I realized that indies need a separate financial ecosystem, a separate theatrical ecosystem. And one of the solutions which came up is off season में जब big releases नहीं होती हैं, you can do deals with theatre chains, etc. if you want a theatrical release. And also there are audiences. So Bengali audience, a Malayali audience will happily go for experimental films. Will happily go for new and independent films. But maybe a Hindi audience doesn't. Audience texture also changes from state to state also. From language to language. And then of course there are the large crossover films. So your Pushpa is a crossover film, Jawan is a crossover film. Manjumal crossed over madly into Tamil Nadu.
I wasn't expecting that one.
It did crazily well in Tamil Nadu of all the markets. For small, medium films, unless you're part of a big studio, I think you really seriously need to think. Because the typical multiplex single screen release might not work for every small independent. Who are you talking
It doesn't
to?
actually.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
तो आप किससे बात कर?
Because sometimes even I look, I'm like, यार ये तो OTT में आ सकती थी. Theater की ज़रूरत ही नहीं थी. But from what I understand, also a lot of OTT platforms have that in their contracts already that they need to have a theatrical release.
Yeah, because that for them it reduces the marketing costs and creates awareness for the film. But actually it ends up burdening the studio or the producer if it's a smaller producer more. OTT was a spike which happened because of the pandemic.
Yes.
It's like satellite television. At one point, satellite television used to bring in 30-40% of revenues for
And
films.
it used to control everything.
And that went down because unko viewership mil gayi, ho gaya. What happened with streaming is they wanted a new content source. They were just setting shop. Ab unki series ka supply has become steady. So they don't need the spike that films bring that much. They will always spend more on a Pushpa. Exactly.
Yeah.
The growth trajectory is exactly like television. सब मीडियम एक जैसे होते हैं. सबको ऑडियंस चाहिए. तो जहाँ से ऑडियंस कहाँ से आएगी? बड़ी हिट फिल्म से आएगी, बड़े हिट स्टार से आएगी.
बिल्कुल.
छोटी फिल्म से भी ऑडियंस आती है. बट देन whether the streaming platform has an appetite to build up that audience, we don't know.
Is it also true, Vanita, that I've been hearing a lot of chatter about this for, I think, over the last 1 year, that the OTT platforms have also shrunk their budget when it comes to producing episodes?
Streaming guys have a lot of money. That's not a problem.
But I believe that they have
don't
shrunk
make money.
their budgets. Yeah.
None of them make money, by the way. I think Hoicha will probably make money this year or something. Very few of them make money. So, but they have large, let's say, global corporations backing them, and they're still setting footprints into India. They have not cut back on budgets. They have stopped increasing them. So the budgets have stabilized.
Would you give me an example of like what it is in terms of numbers?
Numbers, I
just on
don't
top of your
remember the
head.
number. The numbers have stabilized. I've looked at the numbers. They've stabilized. But what they're doing, and this is feedback I keep getting from production houses, is they're squeezing people on season 2, season 3, not just to cut costs, but also to cut corners. So I think that thing of lavish spending that happened in 18, 19, 20, 21, that's over. Those days are over. It's like the 2008-9 days for satellite television. Everybody's throwing money and colors had just come and blah, blah, blah. So those days are over. Now it will be, so there will be spurts of growth. But I think, kitna, Netflix kitna hai? 1800-2000 crore ka hai. Prime Video kitna? 1800. Finally, they have to scale up.
Yeah.
Jio Hotstar is a 28,000 or whatever, 26,000 crore company. You have to have the scale to finance that kind of stuff. See, this is a normal ebb and flow. If you're on a commissioned basis, you take it to someone else, but that also has become difficult because consolidation bahut ho gaya.
Yeah.
Buyers come hai.
Is it also true that within the industry, again something that I've been hearing, that a lot of series that even platforms had bought, they're not greenlit them, they're not releasing them, they just stayed. Or a lot of, contracts have already done before production, given money, but those projects are shelved, whether it's a series or a film, pertaining to OTT platforms in specific because of a financial crunch. Is there any truth to that? If you've heard of something?
No, I haven't heard something like that. Okay. I know that producers are being squeezed on costs. This much I know. Producers are being questioned on seasons 2 and 3 and 4.
Okay.
Or whatever the next season is for a series.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing, if a series is successful, they will do it. See, most contracts have an inbuilt escalation clause for the next series. So I think what they're trying to do is remove or pare down that escalation bit for season 2 and 3. Because if a series is successful, only then will it go to season 2 and 3.
Yeah.
No streaming app is going to commission a season 2 or 3
without
if it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
This is the problem with streaming. Metrics नहीं है.
मैं वही पूछने वाली थी next question.
पता ही नहीं है ना कि क्या हुआ.
कैसे चला? ये number 1 watch, top 10 trending. But I don't understand how do they also know कि पैसे बनाए? Are they making money? But are they making money?
No, they're making money in the sense they get money from consumers.
Yeah.
So that's fine. And see, for Prime Video, it doesn't matter. You must remember. Prime Video is the glue that gets Amazon shopping activated.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter to them. And there is ads on Amazon shopping also.
Yeah.
So for them, Prime Video was created to get people to come to Amazon and shop.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos said it now. When people watch a show, we sell more shoes.
More shoes. Yeah,
something to that effect. I'm not quoting him accurately. It's the glue, but that doesn't mean they don't do a good job. They do a very good job of running a good streaming service, but they have now become an aggregator. They are doing Apple TV. They are offering you pay-per-view.
Everything.
They are offering you fast. They are offering you whatever you want to watch.
Yeah.
And now they put ads on Prime Video itself also.
You spoke about doing a series with stars, etc., like what we were discussing right earlier. Do you think that now, earlier when OTTs came out, if we spoke about Ajay Palawat, right? He's one of the biggest prime examples when you talk about, then you can talk about Panchayat on Amazon. You know, the entire star cast, like their lives have changed after the show, right? But do you also, as somebody who's been watching the media so closely, feel that the OTT platforms now are also steering more towards the stars? Do they also want more of stars than just kind of saying, okay, yeah, actors are good, let's get them in?
See, I don't think OTTs decide so minutely in the sense they might decide on the big stars, etc. But you know, I did a piece of work some months back and I said the linearization of streaming. Streaming is becoming more and more like television, and that's a natural progress of natural evolution to happen. It's very natural.
Sure.
See, ultimately, abhi kitne subscribers hain? 100 million, 125 million. 125 million people subscribe to a streaming service. इसके ऊपर आपकी पूरी 35-40,000 crore industry है. It cannot run on that. I think 50 से ज़्यादा ही percentage होगा from advertising. Whatever ads you get on, I'll tell you the MX Player, which is an Amazon service, or which are the ad-supported ones. YouTube, of course, which is the largest streaming app in India. So advertising brings in a chunk, and globally, Netflix in 12 after Reed Hastings had said we will never go with advertising and all that. But Netflix 2 years back introduced an ad tier in 12 markets. In 2024, 24% of streaming revenues, video streaming revenues came from advertising in America.
Okay.
So that's a trend India will also see. See, because revenue
it's already
broad-based करने के लिए तो कुछ चाहिए ना.
हाँ, बिल्कुल.
TV में भी आपके पास 215 million जो भी subs थे pay TV के, now they're down to less than 100 million. It was 200 million subs and the rest of it was driven by advertising.
Yeah.
So advertising in any ecosystem, media ecosystem, is a big finance.
Absolutely, yeah. So that is required.
If you want more eyeballs and you want advertisers to come, then you will do more massy programming.
You know, you've mentioned YouTube quite a few times in this conversation, and it's a point I keep telling myself, okay, we have to come back to this, I have to come back to this.
YouTube is a very robust business.
Yeah.
And it's a $50 billion business globally.
Who's going to fight it? How do you compete
with 35 ke 37 billion advertising se aata hai. That is your competition. That is the competition for TV. That's the competition for Jaideep Ahlawat. So you need stars to be there.
But how does this kind of, I like to call it like, you know, snackable videos on YouTube, kuch bhi dekh rahe ho, chal raha hai, chalte firte dekh rahe ho. How
or
is
Insta.
This, or Instagram, absolutely. So something like a YouTube, right? How does that impact, say, films or OTT?
It is competition for them also.
Yes.
For time, not for time.
Yeah, not for
consumer
content.
time. So YouTube films is a big segment of advertisers who come there for promoting. If you look at the whole digital ad pie, 70% of all digital advertising in India and globally, anywhere from 60 to 70% goes to Google, Meta, and now increasingly Amazon, the retail part. So, you know, they are your competitors. And by the way, huge amounts of the biggest thing consumed on connected TV, smart TVs in India is YouTube, or even globally.
The other thing that I think is going to be very interesting very soon, and I do know that I think Amazon's already working on it, and there are a few players who've already got sort of an investment, is this short form episodes. The 1 minute episodes, microdramas, right?
I'm doing a huge piece of work on that. Don't ask me.
I really want to talk about microdramas. Like, how is that going to impact the industry?
You know that shorts consumption is high, blah,
it's the
blah,
highest,
blah, blah, blah. I always say that what we do as professional creators of content, and as a journalist, you and I are, as I said, the original content creators. ये सब बाद में आए हैं, टच्चू पच्चू. So we know this stuff. If you look at news, the top most popular sites will be from mainstream media. They will not be your... if you look at entertainment, the top shows will always be from professionally. Ormax ratings does not take YouTube into account. It takes only professionally generated content. So there is this ecosystem, and there is this other ecosystem, which is shorts and YouTube and everything. Okay, user-generated ecosystem, as I call it, and this is professionally. We need to create a when space between these two, because when we create a when space, we get into that space because they are already into our space. What is selling on shots? Film के clips, film
viral
music,
video,
music
song.
क्या होता है? Background में क्या होता है? Film music होता है और क्या होता है? कुछ original कुछ कोई नहीं कर रहा.
हाँ.
Okay, बहुत very little original stuff. Z began this thing called Z influence. I'm forgetting the name. Dilfluencers.
Okay.
Okay. Z has very popular characters in its shows.
Yeah.
And Z is across languages, Marathi, Bengali,
Yeah. They're everywhere.
They picked those influencers and they told brands, you want to use them to advertise in your market. That's a when space you've created between this circle and this circle. So you get that part. You can use it for promotion, which mainstream is doing.
Which people anyways do.
But to create a revenue stream out of that, you need to. And how to titillate the emotional chords. If we don't know, nobody knows. And micro dramas are like 1 minute के end में उसका divorce भी हो जाएगा, शादी भी हो जाएगा, कुछ भी
बच्चा भी हो जाएगा, कुछ भी हो सकता है. So will this micro drama affect the industry? Do you see it affecting the industry?
No, it's an opportunity.
You're saying like come together and promote it like that.
Time. Anything that takes the time away will affect.
Yeah, that's
But it's also an opportunity. Streaming is an opportunity. No?
Yeah.
Streaming has grown the market.
Yeah.
Because जो भी TV का loss था वो कम से कम streaming ने भर तो दिया.
3 things that you could do to rewire the industry overnight. What would you do?
Go back in the past.
Okay. And what would you bring back from the past?
One is I would bring a better regulatory brain. Because really, I think regulation has let this business down again and again and again. And when it has worked beautifully. Beauty of good regulation is the complete fillip it gives to growth. Tragedy of bad regulation is nobody knows what it has destroyed. Yeah. So if you look at television, we never saw premium TV. We never saw our HBO moment because pricing was always like since 2004, pricing on TV is always regulated. Yeah. So TV has always been ad supported. So TV has always had to do popular stuff. So what happened to TV? TV became the real idiot's box. There's nothing wrong with mass programming, but you have to have multiplexed programming on TV also. You look at films. One decision to give tax holiday to multiplexes in 2000, 2001, I forget when. It unleashed a boom. Yeah. And look what it did to the business. The business grew 5 or 7 times. Don't hold me to these numbers. Sure. I haven't looked at them before coming to this interview. But I did this analysis. Within, I think, 5 years or 10 years of the decision, the business grew 7 or 8 times.
Wow, that's a huge number.
It is huge. And that money is kosher money, good money coming back into the system. All the dodgy finance went away. Yeah. Because it was missing was getting working capital back into the business. So I hope we can build some good regulatory DNA. You do one little thing, the industry booms. For example, I would say instantly. Yeah. Why don't we give infrastructure status to building theatre screens? Why can't we have tens of thousands of theatre screens? Just look at the film business boom when it happens. Yeah. Give them a tax holiday for 10 years. See what happens to the business. The other thing I would do is, I don't think capital is as easily available in India for this business. It's as easily understood. Fault lies with even people like me who write about this business. I don't think there's enough understanding of this business. So it is treated like the dumb blonde of the economy. So it contributes 0.5% to the GDP. And then when you want some film actors, you make them come in. But they are more than film actors. Yeah. They are the talent which drives your image anywhere else in this world. Yeah. So it's not just about films. Perhaps I'm using films more because it is more in your face as an industry. I think we are need to over-regulate it instead of letting go.
In 2025, what's that one outdated practice you wish the industry just stops?
There is a tendency to think only about yourself. So, that thing I said in the beginning, just unity. Think about it in unity terms. And also this thing of thinking of yourself as a producer and therefore the creative overlord of what is happening. I think studios need to stop being creative overlords and have a little more trust in the creator also. They think that the director or the writers are off on their own trip, which is not fair because they have an instinct. And that instinct is what will connect with audiences, not your Excel sheet. Yeah. And I think you have to marry that instinct to the science. And the studio's job is to marry that instinct to the science. So I wish that there was a little more courage of conviction among the suits and the creative people both. because तब वो happy marriage हो सकती है.
या दोनों को करने दो जो they are best at and come and meet in the middle.
So that's why I said now Aadhar Karan is lovely. Aadhar, I said Karan is the creative guy. Whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm going by the
From what
public
it looks like, at least to us,
you know,
yes.
and from whatever I've heard, Saregama or whoever else they were talking to would have asked for far more financial control. Maybe they didn't want to give financial control, and maybe that's why this deal was better.
Yeah.
And Baweja had another problem. He didn't want to be answering to VCs in private. So he said, मैं public का पैसा उठाता हूँ and I deliver. You know, but he's at a different level, doing different scale thing.
Yeah.
Dharma is at a 5, 6, 800 whatever crore level. That's at a different scale. So that's one thing I would, you know, courage of your conviction.
Thank you so much for talking to me. You're just so fun to talk to. Even though it was a serious topic of business and entertainment and numbers, I really enjoyed.
I love this business, yeah. What is that?
But that's what I'm saying, you made it fun.
I love being the fly on the wall in this business and just watching it.
Yeah, you made it fun. Thank you so much for talking to me and for all your time.